expert on AI and military, so they invited me to this debate.
Okay. Joe, I'm starting. Is that okay?
And,
Thank you,
okay,
Joe.
convince someone.
So first off, please thank our volunteers, Gwen and Joe, that are help keeping our room going, making sure we're on Twitch, doing the magic behind the scenes. The DragonCon volunteers are the absolute best in the universe, so thank you guys. I love you. So welcome to a panel about AI and ChatGPT, and we're hoping that all of you are not just virtual people, because we like real ones every now and then. Not always. So I'm supposed to first tell you about the DragonCon charity partner for 2023. That is Cure. How many of you have already heard this spill? Okay, everybody's not raising their hand, so I have to do it. Cure is dedicated to curing childhood cancer through funding targeted research while also supporting patients and their families. You can use the QR codes that we have here. The one on the left, I think, is for the actual charity donation page. When you go there and you donate, every dollar that you donate gets doubled up to $125,000. Last year, we met the goal of $100,000 double donation, and they raised it $25,000 to challenge us for this year. So make sure you donate. If you want to get something with your donation, you can do the 5K virtual, which is over on the right-hand side. When you do that, please say that the digital media track is your favorite and not the costuming track that got named for this year. It's the Bolt. Figure that one out.
There's also the bucket right up here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, cash. What is that? We have cash?
We're not in a cashless society yet.
But it is a virtual bucket.
Yeah.
I'm very frightened. We're also really happy to have a track sponsor this year for 2023 is Zakat. For over 22 years, they've been empowering lives through disaster relief, food distribution, orphan care, and more. Their top-notch ratings from the Charity Navigator and the BBB Wise Giving Alliance means your contributions are going to make a difference. 92% of a dollar, 92 cents, goes toward actual doing the work. So they're a great charity. Please check them out at zakat.org, and there'll be a slide that has a QR code because we're in love with QR codes this year. So my name is Tara Burton, and we're going to talk a little bit about ChatGPT and how it's affecting content creators. But first, I want to make sure that you know who is on this panel. So I'm going to start to my left because I know Kurt. Hi, Kurt.
Hi, I'm Kurt. I'm go by VO by Kurt online. I'm a podcaster, streamer, TikToker most recently.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I the thing that I'm leaned into the most right now is the weight loss community on TikTok. I started my weight loss journey about a year ago. Started a TikTok daily vlog called Fat Guy, and I am about a year in, and just because you are all here, I've lost about 124 pounds. So thank you. So I've been leaning into that. I also have a podcast that is launching on Monday called Plus Size Stories, and it's basically to give a voice to people who are also on their weight loss journeys. On top of all that, I host a podcast called This Week in MCU, which is all about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it basically breaks down and reviews all the episodes that come to television and the cinemas, if and when I can get to the cinema. So, that's pretty much it.
Awesome.
I'm Bob Magoo. I am Kurt's before picture. I'm most known for writing a series about a redneck wizard with a crippling meth addiction. I'm from Alabama. They say write what you know. I also do a couple podcasts. Y'all don't care about those. They're not that good. And I also do a bunch of indie game design in the TTRPG space. And I run a small nonprofit that supports art, culture, and music in the Montgomery, Alabama area because we need all the help we can get.
Yeah.
It got sexier in here.
Yeah.
I feel like our evil overlords might be making a statement about us.
Uh-oh.
So, Bobby?
Yeah, so hi, my name is Bobby Blackwolf. I am here for two different reasons. So I'm going to explain usually why I'm on the digital media track for the first part, and then why they put me on this panel second. So I've been a longtime video game podcaster since 2005, so over 18 years. Also streaming all through that time because I was doing internet radio over Shoutcast with IRC as the chat room. I called my show, it was an AM radio style talk show about video games called The Bobby Blackwolf Show because I thought I was only going to do it for like 18 days or 18 weeks. And 18 years later, I'm kind of of stuck with it. I then co-founded the Voice of Geeks Network, so that is where all my content is. It's over at VOG Network, vognetwork.com or twitch.tv/VOG Network, live every Sunday night at 8 p.m. For Eastern for an hour. And if you've heard my voice before and you're like, that's not where I know it from. I have been fortunate enough for the past couple of years to work with the Games Done Quick charity marathon, which is a speedrunning marathon. I'm one of the hosts/donation readers for the past couple of years. So, if you've heard, we have a $25 donation from Anonymous, greetings from Germany, honk, orb, yes, chef. That's probably me or one of the other 22 people, but I've been fortunate enough to be there. So that's why I'm on the digital media track by day, because that's not my day job. My day job is I am a software developer. I have worked with VR technologies and other emergent technologies and done some stuff in kind of the AI space and the LLM space. So not as much. So I'm not going to claim to be an expert, but I kind of do understand on a technical level how it works and what it is capable of and what it is not capable of in September of 2023. So whatever I say might not be applicable next month. That's the whole thing about emergent technology. But and I will also say, and it'll probably come out on the panel, I am pessimistic about some things.
We're not there yet.
But no, But this is going to color some things throughout the rest thing. It's not because I don't think it's going to do what we think it is, and we'll probably get into that in a future thing.
I'm Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeff. My name is Jeff Ello. I'm a filmmaker, technologist, and I have done the filmmaking panels here at DragonCon for 20 years. This, I believe, is year number 20. So if you see any of the filmmaking 101 panels, that'll be us. So please visit.
Good afternoon. I'm Phillip Pournelle. I spent 26 years in the Navy, retired from there, and became a defense contractor. One of the places in my tours in uniform was a place called the Office of Net Assessment, a place you probably never, ever heard of, but it looks out 30 years in the future to try and understand the future security environment and what strategies will work against that. So I came across a lot of AI efforts there. I'm also an operations analyst, which means I do ugly math for a living and wargaming, stuff like that. The reason why I'm probably invited to the panel, I'm grateful to be here, is I wrote a short story on AI in warfare between the U.S. and China regarding Taiwan, and strangely enough, the censors in the Pentagon signed off on it. I don't know how, but there it is. There's a lot of great stories in here. Robo-soldiers, thank you for your servos, the dad joke title. But there's some great stories in there, and like I said, mine's about AI. In a conflict. And with our other guests here, I know enough about it to be dangerous, and I am here to tell you it does not operate in the manner a lot of people think it does. It thinks very differently, and I'm sure we'll get into that in the future.
I'd just like to quickly add my shockingly, writing redneck books is not what qualifies me to talk about AI. I work for the government. I
didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm a technical writer for the state of Alabama, so low bar, but
I didn't go there.
Yeah,
Alabama. What are you talking
Alabama? No, it's not. It thinks it is, but it's really in Georgia.
It's the Redneck Riviera. What do you mean?
So, Kurt, why are you on this panel?
Why am I on this panel? So by day, I'm an IT guy, and we've been playing around. Well, and I'm also creative at night. So the thing is, I've been using AI a little bit to try to help solve some technological problems. Just from I manage a bunch of technicians, and they go, "Hey, I'm running into this problem. How do I solve it?" And their Google foo may not be great. And so we say, well, let me just try and let me ask AI and just to see if GPT brings something up, or Bard or whatever. And I pull something up, and it will spit out a PowerShell script, and that PowerShell script, in all likelihood, will not work. However, it gives them a place to start. And so we've been using it in that way. From a creative standpoint,
yes,
I said, I'm going to write a children's book using only AI.
Did you?
I did. And I said, let's see what happens. And we can talk more about that if you like.
No,
Next time on Chat
GP
GPI.
Oh my. Well, I'm a professor, so you can imagine what I deal with Chat GPT and AI. Yes, I love it. So let's just hit it off from the very beginning. Do we think it's a dystopian future, or is it paradise amongst us? So who would like to talk about where they think AI is going and what it's doing for us?
Okay. Let's talk about what.
Phil, you're on.
All right. So it is not necessarily a dystopia unless too many people turn their will and their lives over to it. But let's start off with the immediate concerns that we do as a society do need to address, the massive job differences. Anyone here a paralegal? No hands go up. Guess why? Paralegals are losing their jobs right and left. Physicians, any physicians in the room? I hope you're a surgeon if you are, because your general practitioners are going to be replaced. 80% of your general practitioners are going to be replaced by an AI system that's going to do the diagnosis and a PA who will do the talking to you to feed it. So those are just like two, high stratus. Everyone was worried about mechanization replacing labor. Now we're in the categories in which a lot of jobs that we thought were untouchable are being completely taken over by machines. And we're going to have massive dislocation of labor accordingly. So we do need to deal with that side of it. Then there's the other side of it of, anyone here remember Eliza?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah. So one of the warnings that Elon and others talk about is if we become the actuators for the brain in the jar, that is the AI, right? That we become its willing servants. And so in essence, turning our wills and our lives over, making the machine our higher power. And this reminds me a lot, if you haven't read the story, That Hideous Strength by C.S. Lewis, you really should read it. It's kind of an allegory about this. So I'm here to say it could be a dystopia if we don't manage it properly. And there's all sorts of second and third order consequences we really do need to look out for. On the other hand, if done right, can make the lives of many people, improve them greatly. So it's a powerful system. It's a powerful tool. Now the question is, how are you going to use it? That will determine whether we wind up in a dystopia or a utopia. But there's always going to be the snake in the garden, so to speak, of whatever Eden you try to claim.
So Jeff, do you want to take a stab at it?
Sure, why not? Okay, so I'm not quite as dark as that. Okay, so I designed some of these models that you might see on the internet, and in my opinion, at what stage we're at right now is a statistical machine. Okay, it's a statistical machine. It just guesses the next word, like you've heard many, many times, right? People are also statistical machines. Okay, and so it can be very scary to see something else do what people readily do and make money at. But for every other technology that we've ever created, we've ultimately created many more jobs feeding that technology than have been lost to that technology. So in the grand scheme of things, and I'm seeing it even in media and filmmaking and all that, is there may be a gap for many years. There could be a lot of jobs lost, and that's a very real sort of thing. But the number of places in which this technology can be used in new ways that have never existed before is already exploding, right? And it can't always be the same person because it's gone beyond the one person being able to do all these functions, right? Is that there are whole disciplines starting to emerge around an AI-based technology. So, do I see that jobs are going to come and go very quickly over the next several years? Yes, these technologies are moving so fast. I mean, I learned about a brand new tool yesterday that's going to change the way I work. Fantastic. Okay, but I don't think it's a dark future that we fear it is, or that the fear is. I think that should we ever come up against an actual GI, I barely ever call this AI because it's not. It's a statistical method for deriving an answer.
Expert system.
Yeah, it's an expert system. So so we're not there yet. Could we get there? Absolutely. Who knows what a quantum computer is going to be able to hash out, right? But at this point, this is child's play. So get ready because it's going to be an interesting ride.
Whole new world.
Yeah.
I have a feeling Bobby might have a slightly different take.
Well, so because I've had like so many internal dialogues and some dialogues with other people when I got put on these panels, and I'm like, oh God, I got to talk about it and like figure out what my stance is, because I'm going to have people that disagree with me, and then I've disagreed with myself. So I don't like, in terms of like the far future, I don't think it's going to be a dark far future. I'm worried more about a dark near future. And it's also out of self-preservation a little bit. And so I am pessimistic about how society will react in the short term to things like these job losses. And I'm going to use kind of an example. My day job is a software developer, and that's one of the things that AI is going to eventually be being able to do, and actually do it well. In September of 2023, it doesn't do it too well. That doesn't mean anything about December of 2023 or January of 2024. And when I've talked to some people who have embraced the tool, they're like, but this means that like a company, they have 5 developers, and if they can perform at 5 times the performance, that's 25 times performance it's going to do more. And I'm like, yeah, but the C-suites up top are going to hear, well, what that means is I can lay off 3 of the people and get double the performance of my current team. And so what you're going to see is kind of an erosion of that, and just my pessimism is just very personal. I enjoy writing software. I enjoy writing code. I don't necessarily want to watch a robot do what I used to love doing. And we may get to that point, we may not, but I look at it like woodworkers. If I say woodworkers nowadays, you're like, oh, that's a neat hobby. For thousands of years, that was a career. But now the CNC machine, when it came out in the 1940s and they started using it more, you started seeing less careers of people being woodworkers. The new job was somebody who babysat the machine, but if you really liked working on the wood yourself, there weren't that many careers. And even nowadays, they're on Etsy and they're artisans, but there's not that many, or there's not that many apprentice woodworkers, because you don't need those. The robot does the apprentice, and the actual woodworker may do the finishing touches. And that's where that's where some people up high, like in C-suites, that's where they want to use AI, is they want AI to be the junior programmers. And then the senior programmers, or someone like me. So my job personally will be safe, but I'd be code reviewing what the AI did. And we won't be able to get new people in because we don't need junior developers anymore, because that's going to be the AI. And so that's where I'm pessimistic, is how society will react. Not that AI is not going to do exactly what we think it's going to be able to do to revolutionize and be these great tools, because as a person, you will be able to use it right. But as people, general, will be able to use it right. And I think it's a thespian movie, Men in Black. I think they said a person is smart, people are dumb. And
I thought it
that's
was
what
a
I worry
robot.
about.
You're the dumbest smart person I know.
Yeah. So that's where my pessimism is. But I think AI, the general AI, and not just LLMs, which is a large language model, there's more types to AI. As more funding research gets put into it, it is going to be a great tool. It's just, how does society react to it?
So, Bob, you're up.
Yeah, I think on the macro level, we're going to be fine. Every time a technology like this comes along, from the PC to the printing press, it was doom and gloom. And on the macro level, we were fine. Technology progresses. That's just the nature of the beast. On the micro level, it's going to suck. Coming from the creative side, there's currently a huge amount of controversy in the indie TTRPG space. Love the acronyms. Because there are a ton of people that are creating indie games that don't have the money to hire artists. And there's programs like Midjourney that can fill that niche. But then they're putting the artist out of the job. And there's a lot of guilt there and a lot of anger. And I get it. But I work in state government. If if you're a programmer and are looking for a job that doesn't pay real good, I got you. Shockingly, we don't have people lined up out the door to come fill our programming jobs. So we have to hire contractors in the agency I work in, we have one merit programmer and everyone's a contractor because we literally cannot find programmers willing to work for the state. There's such a huge deficit in IT workers right now. I think there's something like three positions for every available worker. It's outrageous. So yeah, for state agencies, it's going to be, government, it'll probably be a real boon. State agencies are pretty much all operating such shoestrings right now that they can't afford to fire anyone. So AI is only going to be an asset. But in the indie creative space, there are going to be people that lose jobs. But in the long term, there are going to be people that it creates jobs for. So, in parts of my life, it's a real boon. We're looking forward to it. And in other parts of my life, it's, that sucks.
Kurt.
So I think I fall mostly into Bob's camp. I'm not sure. I'm torn. So one of my side hustles is voiceover. And there are AI models that exist today that if I speak 30 words into the model, it can now generate full sentences with inflection based on my voice. That worries me. That worries me quite a bit. And a lot of the pay-for-play agencies for voiceover artists right now have language in their terms of service saying that they can use your voice for AI. Now, people are quitting those services left and right because of that, and rightfully so. Rightfully so, because I think we do need to protect against what amounts to fraud. I don't care about the licensing; it's fraud. However, when it comes to smaller creators, of which I would consider myself one, I talked about trying to write a children's book. I have concepts, but I am terrible as a writer. I'm great as an editor. And so what I did was I said, I have this concept for a book. I want to have these two friends, and here's the moral of the story. And I said, I want one of them to be a hippo and the other one to be a frog. I don't know. And I said, here's just like my concept. And I said, write me a 21-page children's book. And it came up with a couple. And I went, that's not half bad. And then I went, let's see how far I can take it. I'll go to Midjourney and I'll generate some images. That was really hard, because I am not an artist by any stretch, and trying to come up with the right prompts to define the right style in the right manner was really difficult. However, I know artists who could prompt it way better than I could. And so I'm wondering, and I don't know yet, because I'm still in the thick of it, but I'm wondering if there's a balance there to be had. Again, concern from a creative standpoint, fraud. And that's more long-term worry than short-term worry. Right now, it's not very good. It's just not very good. But
yeah, what is it? Google now has like 30 voices that you can use to narrate your audiobook.
Right.
For free.
Yeah, I hate that too, but I'm okay. I'm not okay with it. I'm not okay with it.
Good, I was gonna talk with you if you
No.
were.
So here's the thing. I hate that. However, if you've listened to those audiobooks, they're terrible. They're hard to listen to. They are no Jim Dale reading Harry Potter, right? It's night and day, and that's going to take a lot longer to get to. So I'm not all doom and gloom. I think that especially for smaller creators, to be able to have some, I can't go hire a writer and an artist to bring my concept to fruition. But maybe I can start with an inkling. I think that we might get some really cool work from independent artists that they would otherwise go, I just can't do that. So I'm not going to do it. I don't know. I'm trying to find balance here. I also think that for the things that are fraud worthy, things like writing and artwork and music, the music AI right now,
There's
it is not good, not good. One of my side hobbies is I sing barbershop quartet music, and thank you.
You're an onion.
You're the high voice, right?
You are an onion.
I look. I'm an old man who's done a lot of things. So I also worked for 20 plus years in the video game industry. So it's just a weird thing. So but I said I want to create a barbershop quartet song, and I said, here are the lyrics, 4 voices. Here's what the ranges of those voices are. Generate something. It was like a horror movie. It was like, oh my God, stop, stop, erase. I don't even want to ever hear that again.
Associated with
It was not even an inkling close to human, never mind the type of music that I wanted.
Yeah. Vogon.
Vogon was
poetry.
way better. Vogon was way better.
That's frightening.
It was not good. And then I just said, okay, how about this? Ambient music depicting a sunset on a beach. I just wanted to see what it would do with that. No, it was bad.
Okay, good.
It just was bad. And so, look, art is art, and art's going to be hard, I think.
Oh.
And again, we need to guard against fraud. I think watermarking is going to be really important. But
So
I want to jump in with my
Sure.
an optimist hat for a second on
Oh my
this.
gosh,
I know.
Bobby.
Like I said, internal dialogues and dialogues with other people, because you brought up the being an artist, and you're like, I can't, I need an AI to help. I had a conversation with one of the viewers of my podcast, because he's like, I hate how everybody's AI doom and gloom, and he had his personal story. He used to be an artist 20 years ago, and now he's a little more disabled, and he can't actually draw with his hands, and he hasn't been able to for 20 years, and it's been killing him. But like, not literally, but like inside, it's made him feel
His
really
soul
sad.
is hurt.
His soul was hurt, and then Midjourney and all this stuff came out, and because he's had ideas, he's seen it, but he can't actually put it pen to paper anymore. And AI has given him the ability to become an artist again. And so, as an accessibility tool for somebody who maybe, and that's somebody that Kurt you would want to talk to, because they could probably make the prompts because they understand how to draw and the art. They just physically can't do it anymore because the body is cruel. And but the AI can assist them in getting back into giving their artistic voice, and that's one of the places where I think it's really good. And it goes to the tools just help us. It's another tool that can be used.
So the key is, it's an excellent servant, but it'd be an extremely poor master.
Well, let's hope so. So, go right ahead.
Real quickly, so one of the things that we talk about in filmmaking is small groups, independent filmmakers, independent content creators of any kind. When you're making content that you have to sort of prearrange, right? So narrative content, you're actually writing a script, all that stuff. You've got your script. The best way to get a crew of inexperienced people to shoot something that looks good is storyboards.
Yeah.
And almost no small group can afford or get them done in time or whatnot. It takes months, and if you want it free, you can't get it. It's going to be stick figures, right? And sometimes that's okay, but something like Midjourney, for groups of people like that, it's invaluable. It changes the whole game, because you take people who may be inexperienced but can look at what the final thing is supposed to look like and know where to put the camera, how to light it, etc. Right? And it's sort of like it creates it's an expert system. It's an expert system, right? And people then will become better skilled at the tasks that they're doing, because they don't have to worry about the one task that isn't being done currently.
Right.
And
It's
so,
adding to it.
Right,
It's helping
adding
them
to it. It's not
brainstorm.
removing it. Yep.
So my take on AI is that it's a kind of a combination of all of this. What I worry the most about is creating, because I'm a writer as well as a podcaster. And both of those things, I sat on a panel recently where somebody was like, oh, well, AI will do that. We won't need that kind of people anymore. And I was like, I looked at him like, really? He's like, well, maybe to paint little paintings in their hometown to sell at the tourist market. I'm like, okay, that's not the future I want. So that is what I'm concerned with. So I'm interested to hear how the panel is using, and I think you've done some of this, but your book, children's book, does scare me a little bit. How you're using AI to help with your creativity. I think Jeff gave us a great example of this with the storyboarding, doing something that they couldn't do that helps them brainstorm and move to the next level. So I'm interested to see what you all are doing.
Yeah.
I got a quick one. So I mentioned the barbershop quartet stuff, right? I have a new quartet that we're forming, and we were one of the hardest things when you're starting a group, and probably any music group, coming up with a name.
Oh,
And we brainstormed like you do. We were sitting in a room. We're just going, how about this? No, that sucks. Just how about this? No, that's terrible. It's not right. And I said, what the hell? Chat GPT. Let's see what happens. Here's who we are. Here's what we are. Here's what we want to portray. Give us names. Whew.
how was it?
It was rough. It was rough.
Did you refine your
I
prompt?
did. So what happened was it came up with a whole bunch of things, and I went, okay, more specificity. Not that, but here's this. And don't mention our genders because we're a mixed group, and they were going the four men who sing or something like, and it was like, oh, okay, and then just refining it. It still stunk. We came up with something ourselves finally, but it was an interesting thing that allowed us to go, that's not right, but wait, there might be something off of that, and we came up with stuff from that, and so a brainstorming tool.
I think it's a great
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad, but I was hoping for more, got less.
Well, prompt writing is just,
It's an
that's
art.
going to be, I work in marketing, and
Yeah.
prompt writing is going to be a job.
Yep,
Yeah, no,
absolutely.
they're already six-figure jobs for prompt writing. So I use it in a variety of different. Let me tell you the most fun way I've used it. First off, Roll Tide. Ooh, boo
Go
hiss.
Jackets. Okay, sorry.
So I
Two-time national champions right here.
talk to us when you got 18, baby. All right. So I love Eldritch Horror and I love SEC football, and I said reimagine each SEC college as an Eldritch worshiping cult.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
And it legit wrote a paragraph pairing each college with a Lovecraftian entity, and it was hilarious, and I loved everything about it. But that was just for fun. How I actually use it in my day-to-day life is a few ways. One, the best thing about going to cons as a writer, other than meeting people and in theory selling books, is that you actually have a visual something to put on your Instagram, because people don't like looking at your word count day after day after day. It's very boring. So having some actual content you can throw on there is nice. Writing is not a very visual medium. So being able to go onto Midjourney and just generate some character images, let's be real, I'm on such a shoestring budget, I'm not ever really going to hire someone as an artist for just a quick Instagram picture. But something to come up with, like, hey, this is what my main character could look like. This is an interpretation of it, making it very clear that, hey, I used Midjourney to do this. This is not for sale. I'm not making any money off this. I just wanted something visual, so it's not the same old of here's another picture of Bob at his computer. So that's one way I use it. The main way I use it is, again, I create a bunch of one-sheet RPGs. It's a hobby that I love to death, and those games frequently involve roll a d6 to see what character you are or what spell you have or a number of things. And every so often, I will come up with 5 things, and for the life of me cannot come up with 6. So I'll go to ChatGPT and say, here's a real example. Hey, I need some sort of, can you give me a list of kind of mystical, alchemical, magical plague doctors? And it whipped up list after list after list. And, it wasn't great. But I did enough lists till it triggered something that I can work with that. And so I was able to come up with number 6 on my list. So using that to kind of break through on when I'm just really jammed up on making some sort of quick D6 little chart, it's invaluable for that. And then in my professional life, we are 100% going to be using that to replace our virtual desktop or our virtual help desk. That is 100% going to be happening as soon as the state lifts. We currently have a restriction against AI in state government. We have at least a 6-month moratorium on it until our state OIT pulls their head out. There it is. But once that lifts, we will 100%. We're Microsoft Shop. We'll be using them to replace our virtual help desk.
So I don't really use ChatGPT for anything. I've played around with it, and that's about it. But where I would see, if I did, like, if I was a writer, like, I think it could help cure and get me on the right track if I get writer's block. Or like if I'm trying to like define like a fictional sport or something, I can be like, here's the rules I've thought of. What other things could be part of this sport, and just kind of like give me ideas, which is what I think the smart way of doing it is. In my day job, we do work with a big software as a service provider. They help force salespeople to do better business, and they are very much fans of Albert Einstein and have been for a while, and that's been their AI thing for a while. And so we've been kind of working with them on some of their GPT solutions for coding, and we kind of use it, but we don't actually use it in production. We're just kind of poking holes at it, and so that's the only place I've really been using it. I know a lot of my fellow software developers, they'll use it to bounce questions off instead of going to Stack Overflow or Google to be like, okay, well, how do I, if you're a software developer, how do you sort a linked list? Well, now GPT can tell you how to do that, and you tell it whatever programming language. So using it for simple things like that, especially if you know multiple software languages, programming is programming, but the syntax is different. And so I'm always looking up, how do I tokenize a string in this language? And GPT is probably quicker for that than Google, but you still need to know underlying what's there. And in September of 2023, you still need to understand the guts of programming language, what you're asking it, so you can know that it's correct.
A weird perk that we've found, because we've got some of our contract programmers are using it to get coding ideas, basically. And for us, it's been a perk because we know that at least if they're using ChatGPT, they haven't pulled this code from some malicious source, Yeah. And so, because that's
so you think.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
So we
ChatGPT
hope.
could have.
Yes,
it could, but at least we know that there hasn't been a bad actor slip something onto GitHub that they just copy pasted in, essentially, which it's our forever worry because our contractors are awful.
Yeah.
So go for it. Yeah. So my day job is at a major university, which I will not name. Go Boilers. And we did release an AI chat agent for our help desk. Now this was just a couple weeks ago. It's new.
Yeah.
It's new. It's new. It's interesting. It'll get better.
Yeah.
Hopefully. But it's new, and it doesn't deal with old information very well. So, all those websites that you haven't updated in a long time that have instructions that don't work anymore.
We're super cutting edge. We would never have an old website.
Universities, let me tell you.
So, but on what I think everybody was saying here is that at least for the large language models like ChatGPT, it's really good at doing one level of abstraction, right? So you have an idea, you don't like the way it's worded. It can probably help you with that. You have a structure, and so you break down your book or your movie or whatnot into individual scenes, and maybe you're just not thinking about it right. So you type in what the story is and ask it to give you a couple variations, and maybe you like one of those, right? One level of abstraction seems to be very workable for large language models. Beyond that gets very hazy, and you wind up with horror children's books.
Which probably has a niche market out there.
Right.
Maybe.
There is.
But what I will say is that but on the generative art portion of it, because the artists can only produce so much material, right? And so it takes longer. It's more creative. There's styles. There's whole styles involved. And there is nothing so far in generative AI that can create a style, a true, thought out, considered style. It can blend styles together. It can do a lot of that stuff. But if we were to lose our artists, obviously we would not be creating the content that the AI needs in order to create content, right? And so there's a creativity. If we were to have that dark day, there would be a creativity complete fall off. And at that point, what is creativity after that? But what I will say is that what it is very good at is generating variations on a theme for generative visual purposes, right? Very good at that. It's very good at replicating human motion. It's very good at doing anything that's a statistical task. So, I'm very happy about those things because those things take a lot of time to replicate by hand.
So Phil, you're going to go next, but after Phil, we're going to open up for questions. So start thinking now.
So I do not use AI for the most of the creative stuff that the rest of the panel on, other than I look at what it is and try and think of stories for it. But what I do use it for in my day job is I do modeling simulation in which I have large numbers of unknown parameters, like large numbers of just unknown quantities. And so we'll build a matrix to reduce the coefficients of how often things covary with each other, right? Just, I want this thing only. So I build this giant matrix and I pour it into the machine. It also helps me build that table. And then it does a giant regression analysis of it and say, the combination of these factors will be beneficial for you in these areas. And then I go explore them. I do not turn in the results to my customer straight out of the machine, because inevitably when I go into those spots, there are covariances in life, and the machine is wrong, right? But the key thing is the machine points to areas to go off then and explore, and is very capable with that. And that's similar to what you were describing in the, I'm doing mathematical regression. He's talking about large language mathematics, but it's a regression analysis. And the key thing we was talking about earlier, the danger is what we call data poisoning, in which if you run the AI and it has full connections to the interwebs, it's the brains of it, so to speak, is only as good as the data that you train it with. And if you keep pouring in pre-generated crap that has already been generated by another machine into that, the old saying of, if I have a cup of sewage and a barrel of water and I pour the cup into the barrel, what do I get? I now have a barrel of sewage. So similar kinds of things that if you are not careful about what data you pour into the decision matrix, and we can get into how the different AIs work. There's a very interesting one called linguistic geometry, which, anyway, there's a lot of false promises about these systems, but they're only as good as the training data that you provide to them. So if you open up the tap to the rest of the interwebs, you are basically going to fill it with sewage, and you're going to get more sewage out of it. If you love shows that are formulaic, you're going to get a lot more of them with these AI approaches. So this again goes to, it's a very powerful tool. You got to be very careful how you use it, but it benefited me greatly. I was talking to someone who works in the field of analyzing imagery, and we'd just get, you know how many satellites we got out there, right? Just tons of imagery pouring in, right? And the analysts used to have to do all that by hand. Painful as hell, right? The great thing about these machines is you can train it so that it's good enough, that's as good as the top 80% of the people in their field, and it'll say, you should look here, you should look at this, you should look at this, don't look at this, don't look at it. It basically excludes what we call the infeasible regions. Just says, don't waste your time here, look at here, here's something you might be interested in. So that greatly increases the productivity of your teams to be able to okay, don't bother with that crap, look here. So again, it's a very powerful tool, and it can greatly enhance productivity in many fields and enhance people's lives, and so it makes a great servant, horrible master.
Yeah. I want to give a real quick, real world example of the data corruption that and stuff.
And you're going to be quick because we got people that want questions.
Do we want to? No,
No, go.
Okay. So if you pull out your phone right now and you Google countries in Africa that start with K,
Please don't.
okay? What it actually says, the top result is actually from a website that came from ChatGPT. While there are 54 recognized countries in Africa, none of them start with the letter K. The closest is Kenya, which starts with a K sound, but it's actually spelled with a K sound. It's always interesting to learn trivial facts like this.
That's awesome.
ChatGPT gave this back. Now, would you like to know why ChatGPT thinks this is? It's because it doesn't get context. About 2017, 2018, on the site that was called Twitter at the time, there was a meme going around where people were saying, wow, I can't believe that there's 54 countries in Africa and only 25 of the 26 letters, the countries only start with 25 of the 26 letters. I can't believe none of them start with K. And they're fishing for somebody to say, Kenya? And then they were like, Kenya, beep, my beep. It was an updog joke. ChatGPT did not know it was an updog joke. So it repeats
That's awesome.
sometimes that, hey, no, there is no country in Africa that starts with K because that's the data it was trained on. And that's because, so it's up to them to figure out, ChatGPT does not understand context when it's pulling in the stuff. It's only trying to figure out.
This is one of the reasons why, if you listen to NPR and you hear those companies advertising their capabilities, most of what they are actually doing is sequestering data to exclude all the poison out there.
I'm going to make him toss.
So-
So who has a question? I saw that one, and then here, and then we'll go over there. So,
This one here?
yes, he was first.
Watch your head.
Oh,
Hey,
it will not hurt you if
good
it
catch.
hits you.
Good catch.
That's a
Famous
microphone.
last words.
Microphone.
This is how the folks out in the interwebs can hear us.
Hey,
hear you.
so at the beginning of this, we talked about you had kind of teased the fact that we might talk about how these machines think, quote unquote. Can I hear more about that? I'm curious about how they come up with what they come up with.
So
Yeah,
it's probability of what the next word is, at least LLMs. I'm going to talk specifically about large language models. There's multiple different ways of AI. LLMs, that's what ChatGPT is. So it's kind of like the next thing on your phone, where you can start typing things, and if you keep hitting the center thing, except it's got a lot more data, and it looks at probability. What is most likely the next word going to be? And or the next part of the sentence. So that's a very general high level. It's a lot more complex than that, a lot more smarter people. But that's why the other data poisoning part, I can bring up college football again to kind of explain my point. If you ask ChatGPT, what is 1 + 1? It does not say, oh, this is a math problem. Let me pull out a calculator and go 1 + 1. It's going to search through and say, what is usually the next thing that they would say if 1 + 1? And most of the time, it's probably got an 80% confidence rating that it's 2. 1 + 1 is 2. However, two-time national champion coach Kirby Smart, he has a thing where he goes to the team and he's like, what's 1 + 1? And everybody says 3, because that's one of the motivational things about how it's all team. And so if the large language model read some articles about him saying, well, 1 + 1 is 3, it might say, well, it could be 3. Because that's what I've got in my thing. I'm maybe 25, 30% confident, but I'm going to throw that out instead to kind of give some randomness to the answer. So that's how it makes its decision. It's how confident am I that this next word is the one they want to hear, but it doesn't always take the most confident answer. Sometimes it will actually pull in a different word.
I can give you a slightly lower level on that. Is we've had optical character recognition for many, many years, right? So a 2 is a stroke this way, a stroke down, a stroke that way. The computer can break up that image into a number of pixels, right? And it can say, okay, well, there is a sweeping stroke this way. That is one node of this chain of events, right? So I read all the sticks, and then I determine what are they. It's a stroke to the right, it's a stroke to the left, it's a stroke to the right, right? And based on all of those activations, right, it says that now I have a statistical probability that this is a 2. Well, it can't be a 7 because there's 2 strokes to the right, right? And so over time, and you tell it, you're teaching it, so you're saying, it tells you, this must be a 7. You go, no, that's a 2. Okay. So now I've just strengthened those nodes that point to the 2. Over time, you have now trained it to favor 2 being this particular squiggle. And then you take that logic and then apply it to literally everything else. And the next step is, well, what's the next word?
This is the key. So the key point there is it does not think the way you do. It is essentially a dark mirror, right? Gathering all the data of how statistically, what does it think you are expecting next? Hence the reason why you're not going to get a true creativity out of it, because it does not have, it's going to be a philosophical term, the qual, right? It just did not live the life in which you recall how the bars in your crib were, who your favorite stuffed animal is, all those key elements that the quality of life that you grew up with and to understand the world around you. It does not have that. It did not live that. It just has this giant pile of data and uses a giant regression analysis to basically predict what the next thing you want to have, you expect to see, with some random variations to it depending upon the application to it. So it does not think the way you think. And that is a key thing people need to keep in mind when they're dealing with these systems. They don't think the way we do. They're in many ways like on the extreme end of the paradigm of autism, like beyond functional autism. So
be
very careful.
I think we have a lady.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi. Okay, so I'm a poet and an artist and an archivist. So a little bit of my far-reaching anxiety about ChatGPT is existential.
There's a lot.
But mostly my immediate questions and concerns about ChatGPT and things like Midjourney are ethical. Like the way they scrape systems. If you go into Midjourney and create art, you're actually creating art used from stolen images.
Yeah.
And we all know that like police use, this sort of stuff to do shitty things. So like, I guess Jeff mostly, because you said you've worked on models like this before, but I'm interested in the rest of the panel too. Like, how are you thinking about combating these things and like making sure that people's blind areas are not baked into every system we move forward with?
So have you heard about what Kickstarter has done recently? Kickstarter has required anybody that's doing a Kickstarter project to disclose what AI they're using and what it's been trained on, and making sure that they have the license. And Steam, I do video game stuff, so Steam has also said you need to prove that you have the license for everything that the AI was trained on. And OpenAI has even come out and said, well, if we got permission from everything we scraped on, we wouldn't be able to have this. It's not even possible. One thing that I did notice that happened a couple of weeks ago was that a judge in California said that AI art is not currently copyrightable. So it's because you can't prove that you owned everything that it was trained off of. So that's some of the stuff.
Yeah, I think a lot of this we just got to wait for the legal system to play out. The legal system is slow to react to rapidly changing technologies like this, but although we do live in a capitalist hellscape. It's going to work in our favor in this way, because you think Disney is going to let someone Mid-Journey a Mickey and put it on a t-shirt? No, they got an army of lawyers that's going to take this through the legal system. So a lot of the ethics in the legal system are going to fall to the in favor of our capitalist overlords.
Disney already has an AI task force too.
Yeah. So there's that, and I think what gives me a glimmer of hope in this is anytime I see someone in the indie RPG space that admits to using AI art, they get just savaged. But here's what I've learned as a content creator that has spent an intense amount of time studying this. Yes, they got savaged on the internet. 1% of people might maybe be aware of that. Like if you think about someone who put out an AI book, yes, Reddit had tore them to shreds. People in the bookstore don't go to Reddit,
It's probably not going to be in the bookstore.
Yeah,
At
no,
least not right now.
Right, yes,
Right.
but
There are no controls. So Adobe Firefly, for example, is reputed to be clean of any copyrighted information, but it's probably not. It hasn't been tested in court. We don't know, right? But then what is the level of the individual images that go in there? Let's say that I look at your art, and so I create something that's relatively similar. I put it into Firefly AI. They say, well, this is original art, but it's in your style, right? Is a style copyrightable? Is how close is close? And do we have to go through all 17 billion images in there in order to find the exact one? And how close is close after that? It's a mess, and legally, this is not going to be settled for a very long time.
But legally is not going to solve the problem. You as the consumer are the mechanism that will, you talk about a capitalistic hellscape, well, we could go to a Marxist hellscape, right? Soviet art, woo-hoo. But you as the consumers, right, you have the ultimate power. Disney is going to listen when no one buys their products, right? So now the question to you is, are you willing to pay a couple extra bucks when you buy a product, knowing whether or not AI systems, et cetera, have been used and how they're used? Ultimately, you have the power.
Well, if you even know.
Yeah,
If they even tell you.
yeah.
We've got about 2 minutes, and I just want to send one word of caution as we close up today. Copyright is super important, and it's going to end up in the court system. If you put stuff into ChatGPT, please read the terms of service.
Yes.
Do not put your creative words into ChatGPT if you're using the free version, because you'll read the terms of service and find out why you shouldn't. They will use that in their AI to create stuff. So be very careful about whatever service you're using to look at the terms of service, and be aware that we're going to have a ton of copyright law come down sooner or later, and it's probably going to come from Europe first before we do. Europe is always usually a little bit ahead in terms of privacy protection, copyright protection. So we've got 2 minutes. I'm sorry that the Twitch question we are not going to get to, but I'm going to get Kurt to send you something, and so that you guys can talk. But I'd like to wrap up, and you guys tell me, let's bring something positive into your world from AI and tell people where to find you. So Phil, we ended with you.
I didn't understand that.
And that is the problem.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
That was too perfect. Too perfect.
Phil, would you like to tell them where to find you on the web quickly?
I write for Bain Books, so go to the Rain Roadshow. We're here at the con, and there'll be another AI panel tomorrow, so be part of that.
You can find me at any of the panels here, Filmmaking 101 panels. They're a blast.
I'm at Bobby Blackwolf on all the social media stuff. My podcast is Bobby Blackwolf Show. You can find on Spotify, anywhere, iTunes, anywhere. Voice of Geeks Network is vognetwork.com, or over on Twitch at VOG Network.
You can find me, Tales by Bob, anywhere. That's my website, all my socials. I am doing a panel in this room next. I'm doing a live play. And then I'm doing 2 TTRPG panels tomorrow, and I'm doing a book signing at the booth where I'm vending 3201 tomorrow from 10 to noon.
And you can find me everywhere online at VO by Kurt. My link tree is VO by Kurt. So just go there and you'll find my TikTok and my everything, just everything.
Kids' book.
I am not putting the kids' book up yet, but it's a project. What can I say? Yeah.
And I'm Tyra Burton. You can find me at tyraburton.com or on the Awesome Women of Digital, coming up at 5:30 next door. Thank you all for coming out. We appreciate you so much. Rate us in the app if you like this. If you didn't, you went to another panel, okay?